So exactly how much Brett Kavanaugh perjury is too much Brett Kavanaugh perjury?
If Judge Kavanaugh is shown to have lied to the committee, nomination's over?
Oh, yes. I would think so.
Joining us now, John Heilemann, national affairs analyst for NBC News and MSNBC. He is co-host of Showtime's The Circus, and Ruth Marcus, deputy editorial page editor and columnist at The Washington Post and an MSNBC contributor. And John, you got in a word with Jeff Flake today in Boston, where he was making a public appearance. Where is he as of tonight on this nomination?
I got in a lot of words with him, Lawrence. For about 20 minutes, we sat up at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics up at St. Anselm's in Manchester. I know you're familiar with that institution, although I am currently in Boston. You know, we talked about a fair number of things, including his concerns. He's voiced them at an event earlier here and then again up there about where things currently stand with the investigation and the kind of the ways in which the FBI was initially circumscribed in terms of what they were doing going forward. He said to me that this was not this notion of there being only 4 witnesses and those 4 witnesses not the FBI not being able to go and take what they learned from those 4 witnesses and go further. The nature of how the investigation had been laid out, the scope of it, was not how he originally imagined it when he said limited scope. He thought they would start with those 4 witnesses and then move on. And I think he spent most of this day today, along with Chris Coons, talking to Don McGahn's office, talking to Senate leadership, with whom he is clearly not totally on the same page about how to make sure that this investigation is a real investigation and is seen to be a real investigation. Because it's clear to me in the totality of our conversation that he's a little bit of the guy with the tiger by the tail. He knows he did something important on Friday in getting this extra week, in getting this supplemental FBI investigation, but he now is realizing that if this investigation is not proper, is not done in the right way, does not meet certain credibility standards, that they could find themselves in a worse place when it ends on this Friday than they were last Friday, which was a pretty bad place.
And Ruth Marcus, I have to say, knowing Mitch McConnell as I do, his approach to this would be to try to do the most minimal investigation possible, and in the process, humiliate Jeff Flake by not actually delivering what Jeff Flake wanted, and place the bet that Jeff Flake will simply bear that humiliation, and the Kavanaugh nomination will get through.
I don't disagree with that. And I think today, though, as John has related it, was a very good day in terms of showing that if there's intensive media and public scrutiny on the conduct of this very important investigation, that senators like Senator Flake are not going to allow themselves to be played for fools, to allow this to be turned into just a farce of an investigation, and that we are not going to get perfection. We're certainly not going to get perfection in a week. I doubt that my friend Ron Klain's suggestion of bringing Judge Kavanaugh back before the committee is one that's going to be eagerly snapped up by Senator McConnell or Senator Grassley. But we're going to get something better than what Senator McConnell and Don McGahn, the White House counsel, wanted to give to us in the first place. And that's actually a very good development today.
And John, it has always been up to Jeff Flake from the start to stop this and get the correct kind of investigation. And it still is. Did you get the sense from him today that he realizes that he actually cannot simply trust this process that he has kind of kickstarted? Clearly, he was working directly with the White House today and presumably with Mitch McConnell on getting the kind of investigation he wants. But does he realize he's going to have to do that every day? Like, it's not like Tuesday, they're going to face the same problem.
I think he recognizes it, Lawrence, and I said to him in the course of our conversation, which was about 7 o'clock at night, I said, you know, there was the FBI agreed, the White House agreed to expand the scope of the inquiry. Ostensibly, that was reported in the New York Times around 2:30 in the afternoon. At around 5:30 in the afternoon, a source of mine said that, as far as he knew, that the FBI had not received any legal instruction from the White House actually expanding the scope of the inquiry. And when I said this to Flake, I said, you know, that's what my my sources saying, who is in touch with people at the very top of the FBI, what do you think of that? He said, if that's true, that's a problem. And I've been busy today. I've had this event. I've had 2 events today, one in the afternoon, one this evening. I got to go get on the phone, basically, and find out what's going on. It's clear that he's not fully on the same page with leadership. I asked him that. Are you on the same page with Mitch McConnell and Chuck Grassley? He said, I don't know, basically. Not sure about that. And I asked him then finally, I said, if we get to the end of the week and the scope of this inquiry and the way it's been conducted do not meet your standards, what are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to ask for more time? Are you prepared to use that as a basis just to vote against Judge Kavanaugh? And he said, well, let's wait until we get to then. I don't want to say that I'm open to an extension because I do believe this would all be done in a week. But he was suggesting, at least, that he was not foreclosing the possibility that if there was a problem with the investigation, that he might ask for more time at the end of the week. He didn't deny that.
And Ruth Marcus, no doubt Senator Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski are happy to see Jeff Flake bear the brunt of this kind of labor at this point, but they have a role to play here, too.
And I think we should point out, there's a lot of Republican senators who should want to see a full and fair process, both for their own reputations and for that of the court and the good of the country. So it sometimes is a little bit grating that we only pretend there are kind of 3 honest Republican senators out there. Where are the others? But, you know, this is not Jeff Flake's decision alone. If he were to balk at the end of the day and say, no, this investigation was not adequate and I'm withholding my vote, you would still need additional Republican senators to go along with him to stop the nomination at this point.
John, there's that dramatic moment at the end of the 60 Minutes coverage last night where both Jeff Flake and Chris Coons are asked if Kavanaugh is shown to have lied. Is that the end? Jeff Flake instantaneously, oh, yes. But that's going to be up to Jeff Flake to evaluate and decide whether Kavanaugh has lied.
Well, and not just whether he's lied, but whether he's lied about important enough things to cause him to vote no. Again, it was a subject we discussed. I said, you know, look, it's demonstrably the case, and this is before even some of the further reporting that came out this evening was known to me. I said it's demonstrably the case that he's lied in front of the committee on matters large and small. Which of these matters is enough to be what perjury is enough perjury essentially to cause you to vote against him? And he said, look, I'm going to have to wait and see what is shown out. He clearly ruled in the notion that perjury should be part of this investigation, not merely the accusations of sexual misconduct, but also perjury that it may have arisen out of trying to explain away those allegations. And he said, look, you know, we got to the drink, you know, maybe these things that related to word definitions would not be enough to keep Judge Kavanaugh off the court. But when we turn to the questions of drinking, he tried to make a little bit of a joke about being a Mormon and hard to judge for him matters of excessive drinking. But when I laid out all of the claims that have been pouring in today about this, he looked clearly troubled by it, and it seemed obvious to me, though he didn't say it quite this directly because he is Jeff Flake, that if it was demonstrably true that Judge Kavanaugh had mischaracterized his the drinking that he engaged in when he was in high school and in college, and he lied about it very gratuitously to the committee, that would be a big problem with Jeff Flake.
John Heilemann, Ruth Marcus, thank you for joining our discussion tonight. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.